What's up guys, it's Punchy, and today we're back with yet another Deepwoken update with some pretty crazy stuff to explore. There's a handful of new content and larger updates on stuff that we already know, and last week we also received a bunch of customization with the Sarkindred Oath, Hive Race synergy, including some Moth and Beetle Wings, which I found really cool. As always, check out the new content yourself and test it in-game. Anyway, I'll do my best to show you what's up and what's new, and let's get right into it. First off, on top of a newly reworked weapon, we have a great visual upgrade to the Pyre Path cosmetics. Before this update, the Lava Serpent Path or Eruption Path didn't look any different with this attunement, and it was honestly disappointing, and I didn't like it. We were all forced to have that green glowing fire, even if all of our eruptions weren't green at all. So anyway, today, Lava Serpent Pyre has a unique and special bright orange glow, which makes it different. Comparing it to before, it definitely looks better, and I suggest you check it out if you want to make some drippy builds alongside Lava Serpent. Next up, with some weird but welcome requirement changes, there's been a shift in what's needed for a few mantras and weapons. For some reason, the mantra Pillars of Erisia has always required 20 strength to use besides the normal 50 Gale Breath investment, which was very strange. To be fair, a lot of players do have 20 strength, but it didn't make much sense for overall gameplay, and now this strength requirement has been fully removed from the mantra, making it way more flexible on more builds. Now, moving on to a very weird weapon that I just don't see, we have the Iron Birch. This weapon doesn't even have an alloyed variant and has dropped in requirement, shifting from 55 weapon investment to only 50. I don't really know who's using this thing and if it's even worth picking, but maybe in the future we'll get something new, and that's cool. On to something actually kinda crazy, we have a new mantra coming to an oath. Surprisingly, Salt Chemist is one of the only Deepwoken oaths in the entire game without any mantra at all. And I mean, of course, we get 3 infinite drinks with a distillery and some special salts that change up our potion attributes, but no mantras for combat or anything else. Anyway, in this update, we finally have an option with the new mantra, Lethal Injection. This thing is pretty interesting with a short teleport and grab forward to the nearest target, injecting them with all of your distillery potions at the same time. The main idea for this mantra is to apply status and get your negative effects happening, which is better for offensive and I guess oppressive Salt Chemist play. Even if you reflect this mantra, all of the effects are sent back to the user, and I think that's really cool. There's basically infinite potential with potions and their overlapping effects, so experiment and mess around to find a combo for your build. Moving forward, there's new icons for both talents and weapon mantra cards provided by the community. So taking a look at some weapon mantra options, they really cooked with this with fully drawn images that are pretty cool. Also, for talent paths like Iron Sing, we've received illustrations as well to mix things up from all the old card visuals. I'm honestly a big fan of how these look, and shout out to Zith from the community. Up next, with a great addition to all Deepwoken builds and characters, we have a new global unlock echo, which is awesome. The tarnish flaw, which occurs when re-rolling a bell, forces you to escape the depths and pay 1,000 to untarnish yourself, and overall it just sucked because it took a lot of time. But anyway, in this update we have a new echo upgrade called Soul Plasticity. Essentially, this upgrade makes the tarnish flaw impossible to get, removing this time-wasting feature on all of your slots forever. So I'd say it's super worth buying, but it's also pretty expensive. Moving on to some support gameplay, we have a small rework coming towards Linkstrider and one of its abilities. Instead of applying your links with a mantra, you can now link people with a talent instead. Simply press X to link onto your target, or you can rebind that key to make it easier. It's cool and saves you mantra slots. Next up, with a new Vow of Mastery command, we have Command Summon. This command allows you to summon allies across the entire map with infinite range with a super long cooldown and windup. So this definitely is awesome for transportation, but the main use is to set up your team instead of combat usage. Also, in this update, we got a huge expansion for our global character banks, which is great for storing more loot. Previously, before this update, the maximum bank slots that you could have on your account was 60, which is still a pretty high number, but in today's update, this has been boosted up to 100 bank slots. This makes storing loot way easier than before, and honestly, this is giant. Joining today in this update, there's a new NPC that's been added inside of your guild base called the Songwrite. This dude knows what's up about every single mantra attribute, maybe a stat or element, and lets you level up anything without having to travel anywhere. It's a bit expensive, sure, but I think this streamlines creating builds and makes it way easier than before since you don't have to sail across the map. To finalize things, there's also a new talent talent linking 2 hybrid attunement paths called Fulgurite Formation, and this thing is kinda crazy. So when your crystals explode, lightning strikes for even more damage, and when your surge charges overload, crystals will count for double for 8 seconds following this explosion. It sounds good for both elements and is probably worth checking out. And finally, that's it. As always, make sure to check out the weekly battle royale to win some games with your friends. You might even see me if you're lucky. And if you want to see even more exclusive update content just like this, make sure to like and subscribe so we can hit 100k subs. We're super close and there will be something special if we reach it. Anyway, thanks again and thanks so much for your support. It's punchin' time.